Hello, vocal artists. Ever wonder how your voice works or if you can improve the way it sounds? Well, I have the answers, so stick around because I'm going to show you how your voice works and how you can have a clearer, stronger, more resonant voice. Let's start with how it works. There's a four-part hierarchy of voice, four systems at work at the same time that help you to sound the way you sound. It includes respiration, phonation, resonation, and articulation. Creating the sound of your voice involves all four. Let's start with respiration. It's two simple processes, inhalation and exhalation. Again, all we're doing is playing with air. It may seem really simple, but the most important part of your voice is breath control, and how you inhale and exhale really matters. So when you inhale, you want to take a full breath, plenty of air in your lungs, and then when you speak, you want to be able to control that air so that you can manipulate and create sound. Right now, respiration, you're just breathing to stay alive. That's breath for life. But when it comes to speaking, it's a kind of different process, and you're doing different things with the air. Now, you've probably heard vocal coaches say you've got to breathe from your diaphragm. Well, that's kind of a misnomer, and I'm going to explain to you why. The diaphragm is the primary muscle of inhalation. You can't breathe without it. Now, the interesting thing is the diaphragm is a muscle that's concave, and it is the floor of your chest cavity and the ceiling of your abdominal cavity, and it's really pretty high in the body. But I want to show you how to do lower body breathing where you can expand more of your body, take in more air, and it can create better, stronger sound. Lie down in a supine position, which is flat on your back. It's best to do it on the floor where you have good solid support, although you could do it on a sofa or on a bed. But you want to be flat on your back and put your hand just below the belly button, right? And what you're going to do is you're just going to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And you're looking for a sweet spot, which is going to be the apex of the inhale. So when you take a breath in, pay attention to what your body's doing, because your lower belly should rise, and then when you exhale, it should fall. So as you take a breath in and take a breath out and let the air out, you'll find out that highest point in your lower abdomen where it is the apex of the breath. And that's the point you want to pay attention to. So instead of trying to breathe from the diaphragm, really this is where the height of your breath is. And so keep your hand there as you breathe in and out a few cycles so that you can get a good idea of where that spot is. That is your sweet spot. And you want to pay attention to that because when you stand up and start moving around, you need to know where that is. And that's where you're going to take that breath from and expand the lower body from that point. That's lower body breathing. And it really gives you an opportunity to have a fuller sound and a more resonant sound in your voice because you have more space with the air and the respiration is fuller. So lower body breathing, much better and much stronger than trying to figure out how to breathe from the diaphragm. You're going to engage your diaphragm regardless because, as I said, it's the primary muscle of inhalation. So once you start breathing from the lower body, you'll find that you don't have a lot of upper chest shallow breathing, and you don't have as much tension or stress in the neck, upper back, and in your shoulders. As you begin to do the lower body breathing, you'll find over time that when you inhale, you're inhaling a much fuller breath, and that you'll be able to speak longer. So if you're trying to get out a long sentence or you're giving a speech and you don't really want to chop up your message by taking a lot of breaths in between, or you're doing a voiceover where you have a very long sentence or information that does not need to be cut up so much, and it needs to have a more fluid sound, this lower body breathing will really help you. The next part of the hierarchy is phonation, and this is where all the really cool stuff happens in your larynx, in the voice box, right? This is where your vocal folds are. Now you'll hear me use the term vocal folds instead of vocal cords. A lot of people use the term vocal cords. It's the same thing. It's just technically the correct term is vocal folds. And they're two muscles that come together and they kind of vibrate like this. And what happens is the air comes up from the lungs through the trachea to the voice box. And this is where it kind of chops up the air. And as it's chopping up the air, the vocal folds, as they chop up the air, this is called the fundamental frequency, and it has everything to do with the pitch of your voice. And the quicker that the vocal folds vibrate together, the higher pitch. So if you've got a singer who is a bass voice, the number of times that the vocal folds come together is called cycles per second, and that's measured what we call hertz. And so a person who has a really deep, low voice, their cycles per second could be 32. So a man who's singing bass, probably those vocal folds are vibrating around 32 cycles per second. However, if you're a high soprano, your vocal folds could be vibrating at like over 3,000, maybe 3,100 cycles per second. That's really fast. But you see the difference. That would be a much higher pitch. Now, people who, the average speaking voice, adult speaking voice, is anywhere between 98 hertz or 98 cycles per second to 268 cycles per second. So the lower the number is the deeper the pitch, lower the pitch, and the higher the hertz or the frequency, cycles per second, the higher the pitch. And so that's all about what's happening with your vocal folds and how fast they vibrate together. Okay, so here's what you can do to help with phonation, right? Put your hand here, just below the voice box on your chest, and when you're speaking, you can feel the vibration. You can feel your vocal folds actually vibrating. All right, so the best thing to do is, I'm going to turn this side so you can see, is just tilt your head back slightly, not too much because you don't want to strain here, but just tilt your head back slightly, relax your shoulders, take a breath in through the nose, and just give it a sigh. When you do that, relax the muscles in your face. The second time you sigh, relax the muscles in your jaw. The third time you sigh, relax the muscles in your throat area. And then the fourth time you sigh, just relax the whole entire upper body. So it would be like this. Now I'm relaxing the muscles in my jaw. Now I'm relaxing the muscles in my throat. And finally, relaxing the muscles in my upper body. So simply breathing in like that is going to, again, calm your body and help your vocal folds vibrate easily, and the phonation and the sound will be very clear and more resonant. So in phonation, our vocal folds are just chopping up the air. It happens in the larynx and it deals with pitch. So the third part of this hierarchy of voice is resonation. And resonation happens in what we call the air column. Now the air column is the distance between your larynx and the lips. So it's the flow of air that comes up through the trachea, and when it hits the larynx, and then the distance between the larynx and the lips is called the air column. And in adult males, this air column is about 17.5 centimeters, which is about 7 inches, really like 6.89 inches. In adult females, it's about 14.7 centimeters, which comes to about 6 inches, about 5.78 inches. So the air column, it also vibrates, and the frequency that the air column vibrates determines the quality of the tone. Remember, the vocal folds, when they vibrate, that determines your pitch. But when we're talking about resonation, the amount of vibration that you feel or that happens in the air column, when that vibrates, that determines the quality of your tone. Now, one of the things that you can do to test this is sometimes, you know, if you have one of those bottles, I used to have one, I don't have it anymore, it was broken. But if you have a bottle and you fill it maybe halfway with water and you just kind of blow across the top of it, you hear a certain sound. But if you fill it closer to the top and you blow across it, it's a completely different sound. That's because the water or the liquid in there is displacing the amount of air, which changes the tone of the sound when you blow across the top of the bottle. So again, whether it's pitch that happens in phonation or whether it's quality of tone that happens in resonation, all you're doing still is just playing with air. You're still just manipulating air. So you see why it's so important to have good breath control and to have good full breath when you inhale, because this is everything that's creating the sound of your voice. So I encourage you to pay attention to what's happening in your body when you take a breath in and when you exhale. Make sure that every time you exhale, you're trying to relax parts of your body. Again, the best voice comes out of a relaxed body. So, because the vocal folds are vibrating and the air column is vibrating, there are other cavities in the body that also vibrate sympathetically with that. Okay, so you've got the chest cavity. This also has a lot to do with how resonant your voice sounds, where there are cavities in the body. The chest cavity, the buccal cavity, which is the mouth, your nasal cavity, the sinus cavity. These are all places where sounds kind of resonate. When you pronounce things that have M's and N's, it's more of a nasal sound. But there are some, like vowels, your mouth is always open when you pronounce a vowel, A, E, I, O, U, right? All that is you shaping the air with your articulators, which is the final and fourth part of the hierarchy of voice, articulation. So articulation happens as the air passes through the air column, the airstream, and then it starts vibrating. Well, when it comes out of your mouth, you've already shaped the air, right, by using your articulators. And there are two types of articulators. They're either movable or fixed. Movable articulators include your lips, your tongue, which is the strongest muscle there, and it really has so much to do with the way you pronounce words in your articulation. Your jaw, your soft palate, which is on the roof of your mouth in the back, and it really has a lot to do with the way you shape sound. So your lips, your tongue, your soft palate, your jaw, these are all movable. Fixed articulators would include your teeth, right? They're there, but you don't move them. They don't move on their own. And then the hard palate. The hard palate involves the alveolar ridge, and the alveolar ridge is the roof of your mouth, and it's the ridgy part. You can feel it just behind your upper teeth, and it's the ridge area. That's called the alveolar ridge, the hard palate. It helps with articulation, but it's not anything you can necessarily move. Okay, so now let's talk about the movable articulators that help you form and shape sound. So you probably have not paid too much attention to the way your tongue works, but your tongue has so much to do with how you speak and how you sound. So let's just go through a couple of words here, and I want you to pay attention to what your tongue is doing when we speak these words. So when you say the word eat, eat, what does your tongue do? The tip of your tongue hits the roof of your mouth just behind your teeth when you pronounce the sound, right? E, it's just kind of, the tongue is just kind of there. And then when you pronounce the T in eat, it kind of flicks off the roof of your mouth, eat. But pay attention to what your tongue does when you pronounce the word look, look, right? So the tongue is curled up on both sides. Look when you're pronouncing the L sound. But when you get to the K, the tongue is not touching the teeth. It's in the back, raised higher in the back of the mouth. Look, look, right? Now, if you pronounce the word dog, dog, what is your tongue doing now? Well, when you pronounce the D, D, it kind of flicks the back of your upper teeth in the alveolar ridge, dog. But when you pronounce any vowels, it's kind of open and more flat. We get to the G in dog, g. It's kind of in the back like it is in look. So the way your tongue moves, the way it hits the roof of your mouth, the way your lips move, and how you shape the air as it's coming out of your mouth is your articulation and helps you with pronunciation. So that's the 4-part hierarchy of voice, but it's all about moving air, right? You start in the lungs with respiration, come up to the larynx with phonation, then you're in the air column, airstream with resonation, and then as it comes out of your mouth or out of your nasal, air comes out of your mouth or nasal cavity, you're dealing with now articulation. So that's the 4-part hierarchy of voice. Again, it's all about playing with breath. So I just shared with you the 4-part hierarchy of voice. It starts in the lower body with respiration when you inhale and exhale, comes up. The second part is phonation. The third part is resonation, and the fourth part is articulation. And I'll be doing more videos on each one of these areas and each one of these systems so that you have a better understanding. And also there are exercises and warm-ups that I can share with you that help you better control the air in each parts of the hierarchy. I've created a little infographic about how your voice works, describing this 4-part hierarchy of voice. If you'd like a copy of it, there is a link in the description box. Just let me know and I'll be happy to send it to you. If you like this video and it was useful and helpful to you, I encourage you to hit the like button and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications to be notified every time I upload a new video. So stick around and I'll be seeing you in the next video.